Security. Remove this man immediately. Eleanor Lennox's voice cuts through the elegant afternoon like shattered crystal. Her diamond necklace catches the sunlight as she raises one trembling finger toward the garden entrance. I will not have my son's wedding destroyed by some opportunist looking for attention. Marcus Hale doesn't flinch. His tailored dark suit fits perfectly against his athletic frame, custom-made and expensive. The kind of expensive that old money recognizes but refuses to acknowledge. Ma'am, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Eleanor steps forward, her gold dress shimmering with each sharp movement. Her voice drops to a venomous whisper that carries anyway. Listen very carefully. This estate has been in the Whitford family for 4 generations. These guests represent the finest families in New England. You are not invited. You do not belong here. The Whitford estate sprawls behind them like something from a dream. String lights crisscross between ancient oak trees, creating constellations above perfectly manicured lawns. White umbrellas shade cocktail tables draped in silk. Champagne flutes catch the light like liquid gold. 200 guests in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos have gone silent, watching this confrontation unfold. I apologize for any inconvenience, Marcus says quietly. Eleanor's eyes narrow to slits. The audacity, walking onto private property like you have any right to be here. She snaps her fingers at 2 security guards approaching from the side entrance. Escort him out, now, before he embarrasses himself further or tries something. Marcus's hands remain steady at his sides. His voice carries a quiet dignity that somehow makes Eleanor's fury seem small. Of course, as you wish. Eleanor has no idea she just confronted the wrong man. But Marcus doesn't leave. Instead, he walks toward the garden path that winds through the rose arbor. His steps are confident, deliberate, following an exact route that avoids the slightly uneven flagstone near the fountain, the one that catches heels and trips unsuspecting guests. He moves like he's walked this path 1,000 times before. The catering manager freezes mid-conversation with a server, champagne bottle suspended in air. His face goes white. Mrs. Bradford, that's... What? Eleanor whirls around, her voice sharp as broken glass. Nothing, ma'am. The manager's hands shake as he quickly sets down the bottle. He busies himself arranging champagne flutes, but his eyes follow Marcus's progression through the garden. Nearby, 2 servers exchange urgent whispers, pointing discreetly. The head groundskeeper, an older man who's maintained these gardens for 30 years, removes his cap as Marcus passes. It's an automatic gesture of respect. When Eleanor's glare finds him, he quickly looks away, but the damage is done. Why is everyone acting so strange? Eleanor mutters, her confusion giving way to something darker. Suspicion. Near the altar decorated with cascading white roses and peonies, the groom stiffens. Daniel Lennox is handsome in his white tuxedo, the kind of all-American good looks that grace country club photos and yacht invitations. His jaw clenches as he watches Marcus approach. Who the hell is that? But Emily Whitford, radiant in her lace wedding gown, her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo, has gone completely still. The color drains from her face. Her bouquet of pink roses trembles in her hands. Emily. Daniel's voice carries an edge now. Do you know him? She doesn't answer. Can't answer. Her blue eyes are locked on Marcus, wide with an emotion that looks suspiciously like panic. Marcus moves through the crowd with unsettling familiarity. He knows exactly where to step to avoid the sprinkler head hidden in the grass. He navigates around the antique garden bench without looking, as if his body remembers its placement. When he reaches the champagne table, he pauses, standing in the exact spot that offers the best view of both the altar and the house. A spot only someone who knew this estate intimately would choose. Eleanor pushes through guests, her gold heels sinking into the lawn. I said remove him. Now. The security guards hesitate, exchanging uncertain glances. Something about Marcus's calm confidence, the way the staff reacts to him, the recognition flickering across Emily's face, it all adds up to a situation more complicated than a simple party crasher. Marcus finally turns to face the bride directly. 20 feet separate them, but the connection is electric, visible to everyone watching. Emily takes an involuntary step backward, and Daniel immediately moves closer to her, protective and possessive. "Emily," Marcus says quietly. Just her name, nothing more. But the way he says it, familiar, weighted with history, intimate, makes it clear this is not a stranger. Emily's mouth opens, closes. Her hands grip the bouquet so tightly that rose petals begin falling to the grass like drops of blood. Daniel's face hardens. "I'm going to ask you one time. Who are you? And what are you doing at my wedding?" Marcus meets his gaze steadily. The afternoon sun illuminates his face, highlighting the intelligence in his dark eyes, the quiet strength in his posture. He looks like a man who has nothing to hide and nothing to fear. "My name is Marcus Hale," he says clearly, his voice carrying across the silent garden. "And I'm here because Emily needs to know the truth before she makes the biggest mistake of her life." The crowd erupts in gasps and urgent whispers. Eleanor's face turns crimson. "How dare you? The truth about what?" Daniel demands, his hand finding Emily's elbow. But she pulls away slightly, still staring at Marcus like she's seeing a ghost. Marcus takes one step closer. Just one. But it's enough to make Daniel tense. Enough to make Emily's breath catch audibly. "The truth," Marcus says quietly, his eyes never leaving Emily's face, about who really owns this estate. Eleanor Lennox's designer heels puncture the pristine lawn as she storms forward, closing the distance between herself and Marcus with the fury of someone unaccustomed to being defied. Her gold dress catches the breeze, billowing like a battle standard. When she speaks, her voice slices through the garden party with surgical precision. "Security. Remove this man immediately." The two security guards, broad-shouldered men in dark suits with earpieces, move toward Marcus from opposite sides. Their approach is professional, practiced, designed to corner without causing a scene. But they move slowly, hesitantly, as if approaching something unpredictable. Around them, the wedding guests remain frozen in a tableau of judgment. 200 faces turn toward Marcus with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. A silver-haired man in a navy blazer mutters to his wife, probably looking for the service entrance. A woman in pearls clutches her champagne glass tighter, as if Marcus might snatch it from her hands. Another guest whispers urgently into his phone, likely alerting more security. They see what they expect to see. A black man in a place he doesn't belong. An intruder. A threat. Some actually assume he's part of the catering staff who wandered into the guest area by mistake. The assumptions hang in the air like poison, unspoken but palpable. Marcus stands perfectly still, his dark eyes sweeping across the crowd with calm assessment. When he speaks, his voice is steady, measured, carrying the quiet authority of someone who has nothing to prove. "Ma'am, I assure you, there's been a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? Eleanor's laugh is sharp and brittle, designed to humiliate. She gestures broadly at the assembled guests, the elaborate floral arrangements, the champagne fountain that cost more than most people's cars. "You think walking onto private property during a wedding, my son's wedding, is a misunderstanding?" She takes another step closer, invading his personal space with the confidence of someone who has never been told no. Her perfume is expensive and overpowering. "This event cost more than you could possibly understand. These guests are members of families whose names are in history books. The security deposit alone." She pauses, letting the implication hang. "Well, someone like you wouldn't comprehend these numbers." The condescension drips from every word. Around them, guests nod their approval. A few actually applaud quietly, as if Eleanor is performing a public service by putting this intruder in his place. Marcus doesn't react, doesn't flinch. His expression remains neutral, almost serene, which seems to infuriate Eleanor even more. Near the champagne table, a young server in a black vest and white shirt goes rigid. His dark skin is a shade lighter than Marcus's, and his eyes widen with recognition. And something else. Fear. He opens his mouth as if to speak, then quickly closes it, busying himself with arranging glasses that don't need arranging. An older woman from the catering staff, gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, freezes mid-step. She's carrying a tray of hors d'oeuvres, but her hands have started to tremble. She knows something. The way she looks at Marcus, not with fear of a stranger, but with the shocked recognition of someone unexpected, tells a story she's too frightened to voice. The catering manager who'd reacted earlier stands 20 feet away, his face a mask of professional neutrality that doesn't quite hide the panic in his eyes. He makes a small gesture to his staff. Say nothing. Do nothing. Keep working. They all recognize Marcus, but none of them will speak. The weight of their paychecks, their mortgages, their family's needs, it all presses down on them, sealing their lips more effectively than any threat could. Marcus notices their recognition. His jaw tightens, almost imperceptibly, the only crack in his composed exterior. But he doesn't call them out, doesn't demand they speak. He understands the power dynamics at play, the impossible position they're in. Instead, he simply continues walking, not toward the exit, not away from the confrontation, directly toward Emily. His stride is unhurried but purposeful, each step measured and deliberate. He moves with the confidence of someone who has every right to be exactly where he is, regardless of what anyone else believes. Did you hear me? Eleanor's voice rises to a shriek that shatters the garden's carefully cultivated elegance. Her face has gone crimson, veins visible at her temples. Security! The two guards close in, finally reaching Marcus. One places a hand on his shoulder, not rough but firm. A warning. Marcus stops, but doesn't turn. I wouldn't do that if I were you. His voice is quiet, but something in its tone makes the guard hesitate. It's not a threat. It's a statement of fact, delivered with such certainty that doubt creeps into the guard's expression. Don't touch him. Emily's voice cuts through the chaos, barely audible but desperate. She's taken a step forward, away from Daniel, her wedding dress rustling. Please just... Emily, stay back, Daniel commands, his voice sharp with authority. He moves to physically position himself between his bride and Marcus, his white tuxedo a barrier of propriety and protection. But Marcus's eyes remain locked on Emily. 20 feet, then 15, then 10. The crowd parts unconsciously, creating a pathway between them like the Red Sea yielding to an unstoppable force. Eleanor signals frantically to the guards, her hands fluttering with rage. What are you waiting for? I said remove him. Now, this is MY authority you're defying. But the guards exchange uncertain glances. The staff's strange reactions, Emily's visible distress, Marcus's unshakable composure. Something is wrong with this picture. This isn't adding up to a simple trespasser situation. Marcus takes another step forward. Eleanor's voice reaches a fever pitch. How dare you ignore me? Do you have any idea who I am? What I can do to you? I will have you arrested. I will press charges. You will regret ever stepping foot on this property. Marcus finally stops 5 feet from Emily, close enough to see the tears gathering in her blue eyes, close enough to see her hands shaking around her bouquet, close enough for everyone to see the undeniable connection between them. History written in the air, impossible to ignore. When he speaks, his voice is gentle, almost tender. Hello, Emily. It's been a long time. Marcus extends his hand toward Emily. It's a simple gesture, polite, measured, the kind of handshake offered at business meetings and formal introductions. But in this moment, on this lawn, surrounded by 200 witnesses holding their breath, it becomes something explosive, revolutionary, unthinkable. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd like wind through wheat. My God, someone whispers. He's actually... The nerve. Champagne glasses pause halfway to lips. Conversations die mid-sentence. Even the string quartet in the corner falters. The violinists bow, scraping awkwardly before falling silent. The afternoon air, previously filled with the gentle sounds of celebration, now thrums with electric tension. Daniel Lennox's face transforms from confusion to fury in the span of a heartbeat. His jaw drops, then clenches so tightly that the muscles in his neck stand out like cords. His eyes, previously merely irritated, now burn with something darker. Betrayal. His hand shoots out toward Emily's arm, possessive and protective. "Emily, don't you dare." But she's already moving. Eleanor's voice tears through the moment like a siren. "Emily, step away from him. Right now." She lurches forward, gold dress swishing, one hand outstretched as if to physically pull the bride to safety. "Do not touch that man. Do you hear me? I forbid it." The other guests press closer, forming a tightening circle around the scene. A woman in a lavender gown covers her mouth with her hand. An older man removes his glasses as if he needs to see this more clearly to believe it. Phones emerge from clutches and pockets. Society wedding drama is too valuable not to document. Discretion be damned. Emily stands frozen for 3 heartbeats. 4. 5. Her wedding dress. Thousands of dollars of imported lace and silk, custom fitted over months of planning, suddenly looks like a costume. Something borrowed from a life that doesn't quite fit. Her blonde hair, so carefully arranged hours ago, catches the breeze, a few strands escaping their pins. Tears balance on her lower lashes, threatening to spill and ruin the makeup that took 2 hours to perfect. And she reaches out. Her hand, trembling, pale, adorned with an engagement ring that cost more than most people's annual salary, clasps Marcus's. Firmly, without hesitation, the contact sends shockwaves through the assembled crowd. "Oh my God, she actually... Did you see?" Emily's lips part. Her voice comes out barely above a whisper, but in the absolute silence of the garden, everyone hears it. Every syllable carries across the pristine lawn like a confession, like a prayer, like a secret finally released into daylight. Marcus, just his name, but the way she says it, filled with recognition, relief, and something that might be anguish, tells a story decades long. There's history in those 2 syllables. Intimacy, a connection that predates flower arrangements and seating charts and everything this wedding represents. The atmosphere shifts so dramatically it's almost physical. The air itself seems to change temperature, pressure, composition. Shock ripples outward in concentric circles, reaching every guest, every server, every person within view of this impossible moment. Confusion clouds faces previously certain of their moral superiority. The narrative they constructed, trespasser, opportunist, threat, crumbles under the weight of Emily's recognition. She knows him. The bride clearly, undeniably, intimately knows this man. Eleanor sways on her heels, one hand pressed to her chest as if she might collapse. No, this isn't. Emily, what are you?" Daniel's voice cuts through his mother's stammering, sharp as shattered glass. "Who is he?" When Emily doesn't immediately respond, his volume increases, raw and demanding. "Who is he to you?" He grabs her shoulder, not gently, and spins her partially toward him. The bouquet tilts in her grip, pink roses scattering petals across the grass like drops of blood on a battlefield. The crowd leans in collectively, hungry for her answer. This is what they came for, though they didn't know it until now. Not the carefully choreographed ceremony, but this raw, unscripted moment of truth. Emily's eyes close briefly. When they open again, they're swimming with tears that finally spill over, leaving tracks through her foundation. She doesn't pull her hand from Marcus's grip, doesn't step away. Instead, she straightens her spine, lifts her chin, and speaks clearly enough for everyone to hear. "The man who saved my family." Silence. Absolute, crushing, impossible silence. Then the whispers explode like breaking waves. What did she say? Saved her family? What does that? I don't understand. The Whitfords don't need saving from anyone. Daniel releases Emily like she's burned him. He stumbles backward, his white tuxedo suddenly looking too bright, too clean, too perfect for the mess unfolding before him. "What are you talking about? What family? Your father is Richard Whitford. This estate has been in your family for 4 generations," Emily interrupts, her voice gaining strength. "I know. Everyone knows. It's what we tell people. She finally releases Marcus's hand, but doesn't step away from him. Instead, she stands between the two men, her groom and the uninvited guest, as if occupying a space between two worlds. Eleanor finds her voice again, shrill and desperate. Emily Catherine Whitford, I don't know what lies this man has told you, but he hasn't told me anything, Emily says quietly. He hasn't needed to, because I've known the truth for 10 years. Marcus speaks for the first time since offering his hand, his voice low and steady. Emily, you don't have to do this. Not here. Not now. Yes, I do. She turns to face him fully, and the look that passes between them is so intimate, so weighted with shared history, that several guests actually look away. I should have done this a long time ago. Daniel's hands curl into fists at his sides. His perfect wedding, the culmination of a year of planning, the union of two prominent families, the event that would be photographed for society pages and discussed at country clubs for months, is disintegrating before his eyes. Someone better start explaining, he says through clenched teeth, right now. Emily draws a shaky breath. The afternoon sun illuminates her face, highlighting every tear, every trembling muscle, every ounce of courage it takes to say what comes next. 10 years ago, my family lost everything. The company, the money, this estate, all of it. We were days away from bankruptcy, from losing everything my great-grandfather built. She pauses, her voice breaking. And Marcus was the only person who helped us keep it. The crowd erupts in chaos. Emily's voice steadies as she continues, though tears still stream down her face. The story pours out of her like something that's been held back too long, a dam finally breaking. It was 2015. I was 21, just graduated from college. Everything seemed perfect. She laughs bitterly. My father had just been named CFO Magazine's Executive of the Year. The company was expanding into European markets. We were planning a gala to celebrate the estate's centennial. The guests lean in despite themselves, drawn into the narrative. Several older attendees exchange glances. Something flickers in their eyes. Recognition. The whisper of old rumors they dismissed or forgotten. Then one morning, federal agents arrived at our door. Emily's voice drops to almost a whisper. My uncle, my father's younger brother, James, had been embezzling millions. He'd created shell companies, falsified documents, hidden losses in subsidiary accounts. He'd been doing it for almost 3 years. A woman near the champagne fountain gasps. James Whitford. I remember there was something in the papers, but it was hushed up so quickly. Because it would have destroyed us, Emily continues. The embezzlement was one thing, but James had used the Whitford name to secure loans he'd funneled into offshore accounts. When it all came to light, creditors wanted everything. The estate, the company, my parents' personal assets, all of it was on the table. Her father, Richard Whitford, a distinguished man in his 60s who'd been standing near the house, has gone pale. He moves closer, his voice rough. Emily, sweetheart, maybe this isn't the time. When is the time, Dad? She turns to face him, and the pain in her eyes is raw. When would it ever be the right time to tell the truth? Marcus stands silent, watching Emily tell the story that's also his own. His expression remains neutral, but something in his eyes softens as he observes her courage. Emily turns back to the crowd. We had 2 weeks. 2 weeks before the bankruptcy filing would become public, before we'd lose everything 4 generations had built. My father was meeting with lawyers around the clock. My mother stopped eating. I remember finding her in the library at 3 in the morning, surrounded by legal documents, crying. Daniel's voice cuts through, skeptical and sharp. And let me guess, Marcus here conveniently appeared to save the day? How noble. How convenient. He was already here, Emily says firmly. Marcus was a summer intern in our legal department. 23 years old, fresh out of law school. Nobody paid attention to him. Just another young associate, one of dozens cycling through. An older man in the crowd, silver hair, expensive suit, suddenly straightens. Wait, I remember summer intern that year. Quiet kid, always working late. I was consulting on a merger. He stops abruptly, realization crossing his face. Marcus meets his gaze briefly, and the man nods slowly, confirming something unspoken. Marcus spent 72 hours straight in the company archives. Emily continues. He went through every transaction, every contract, every piece of documentation related to my uncle's division. And he found it. The trail James had been so careful to hide. Not just the embezzlement, but proof that James had acted alone, that the board and my father had no knowledge of his actions. She pulls a handkerchief from somewhere in her dress, dabbing at her eyes. More than that, Marcus found the accounts where the money was hidden. He traced it through 3 countries and 7 different shell corporations. He documented everything so meticulously that when federal prosecutors saw it, they could immediately distinguish between legitimate company business and fraud. Impossible. Eleanor snaps, her voice like ice cracking. You expect us to believe that one intern, some nobody fresh out of law school, managed to solve what presumably trained forensic accountants couldn't? Marcus speaks for the first time, his voice quiet but carrying clearly across the lawn. The forensic accountants were looking for tax fraud and money laundering across the entire corporate structure. I was looking for something specific, evidence that the Whitford family could use to protect themselves from their creditors. Eleanor scoffs. How convenient that you're here now, conveniently telling this story with no way to verify. The bankruptcy case was filed in the Southern District of New York. Marcus interrupts calmly. Case number 15, BK 32847. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. The creditors' committee was represented by Sullivan and Cromwell. The documentation I compiled was submitted under seal as Exhibit 47C on August 23, 2015. The specificity silences Eleanor momentarily. Marcus continues, his tone factual, almost clinical. The offshore accounts were located in Grand Cayman, Luxembourg, and Singapore. The shell companies were registered as Whitford International Holdings, Whitford Capital Management, and Bradford Enterprises. Note the spelling, Bradford with a B, designed to create confusion with the family name. Richard Whitford's eyes close. The Bradford accounts. God, I'd forgotten. That's how he almost got away with it. The similarity was close enough that quick glances wouldn't catch the discrepancy. The total amount embezzled was $17.3 million, Marcus says, of which we recovered $14.8 million before the case went to trial. The recovery of those funds, combined with the documentation proving the family's innocence, was enough to negotiate settlements with the creditors. You kept the estate and the company. Your uncle went to prison for 8 years. The crowd has gone completely silent. The level of detail, names, numbers, legal specifics is impossible to fabricate on spot. A guest whispers loudly enough to be heard. He's telling the truth. I remember the Morrison case. It was sealed, but the legal community talked about it. Someone had done extraordinary work. Eleanor's face has gone from red to white. She opens her mouth, closes it, then manages, then where were you? If you were such a hero, why did you disappear? Why didn't the family? Because I asked him to, Richard Whitford says heavily, stepping forward. All eyes turn to him. He looks older suddenly, diminished. Marcus came to me the day before the final settlement hearing. He'd received threats, anonymous at first, then explicit. James had associates, creditors who'd lost money, people who didn't want the truth to come out. Emily nods, fresh tears flowing. Marcus told us he was leaving for his safety. He said drawing attention to himself would only create more targets. He asked my father to keep his involvement quiet. And then he just vanished. We tried to find him, to thank him properly, but he'd covered his tracks completely. I changed cities, changed firms, Marcus confirms. It was necessary. Daniel's jaw works furiously. This is insane. Emily, you've known about this man for 10 years and never mentioned. I tried, Emily says quietly, and there's steel beneath the tears now. Multiple times. But our families were focused on moving forward, on rebuilding the Whitford reputation. Talking about the bankruptcy, about Uncle James, about any of it. It wasn't done. It was buried. She turns to face Daniel fully. You know what your family said when I tried to tell you last month? Your mother said the past was the past. That our marriage was about the future. That Dragging up old scandals was beneath us. Eleanor splutters. I never. That's not what I... Yes, it is, Emily says firmly. Marcus's expression shifts, the gentleness fading into something harder, more purposeful. Emily, I need to speak with you. Privately. Absolutely not. Daniel steps forward, positioning himself between them like a human barrier. His white tuxedo jacket pulls tight across his shoulders as he crosses his arms. Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of everyone. You've already destroyed our wedding. Might as well finish the job publicly. Daniel, please. Emily begins. No. His voice is sharp, final. I'm your fiancé. I have every right to be part of any conversation concerning you, especially with him. Marcus studies Daniel for a long moment, then nods slowly. All right, if that's what you want. He reaches into his jacket pocket. Instantly, the security guards tense, hands moving toward their belts. But Marcus withdraws only a slim manila envelope, edges worn as if it's been handled repeatedly. 3 weeks ago, I received an anonymous package. Marcus says, his voice carrying across the silent lawn. No return address. No note. Just documents, financial records, transaction histories, correspondence. He pauses, his dark eyes finding Daniel's. Records detailing your offshore accounts, Daniel. Daniel's face drains of color, then floods red. What? You're insane. You crashed my wedding with some conspiracy theory. The accounts are registered in Grand Cayman and Luxembourg. Marcus continues calmly, ignoring the interruption. The same jurisdictions James Whitford used. In fact, he opens the envelope, withdrawing several printed pages. Some of the shell companies you're using are the exact same ones James established. Whitford Capital Management. Bradford Enterprises. Emily's gasp is audible. No, those were shut down. They were dissolved as part of the bankruptcy settlement. The companies were dissolved, Marcus confirms. But the corporate structures, the banking relationships, the networks James built, those still exist. They've been reactivated. His gaze returns to Daniel. By someone with access to the original documentation. Someone who knew exactly how the system worked. Daniel laughs, but it comes out strangled, desperate. This is ridiculous. You show up with some papers you probably printed this morning and expect everyone to believe. The first account was opened 14 months ago. Marcus read from the document in his hand. January 17th, 2024. Initial deposit of $500,000. Funds traced back to a consulting firm that doesn't actually exist. Lennox Advisory Group, registered in Delaware with a mailing address at the UPS store. Eleanor's face has gone rigid. How dare you accuse my son? The transactions increased after you proposed to Emily. Marcus continues, his tone clinical, presenting facts without emotion. In March, another $800,000. In June, $1.2 million. The pattern is clear. You've been siphoning money from somewhere, hiding it in structures specifically designed to evade detection. And he looks directly at Emily now, and there's genuine sympathy in his eyes, preparing to use the Whitford family name as legitimacy and protection. You're jealous. Daniel suddenly shouts, his composure shattering completely. That's what this is. You show up at our wedding with fabricated documents because you can't stand that Emily chose me. He turns to the crowd, gesturing wildly. Don't you see? He disappeared for 10 years, and now he conveniently returns on our wedding day with accusations? It's pathetic. Then explain the messages, Marcus says quietly. He produces his phone, taps the screen several times, then holds it up. Even from several feet away, Emily can see the encrypted messaging interface, the green lock icons indicating secure communication. These are from an encrypted server, Marcus explains. Messages between you and associates discussing the Whitford connection as insurance. Quote, once we're married, the family name provides cover. Nobody investigates old money. End quote. Daniel's face cycles through emotions, denial, rage, calculation, searching for an escape route that doesn't exist. That could be anyone's phone. Eleanor protests, but her voice lacks conviction. Screenshots can be faked. The messages reference specific details. Marcus continues. Emily's dress designer. The guest list for tonight. Your honeymoon itinerary to Santorini. He scrolls through the screen. And discussions about how much of the Whitford estate could be mortgaged without the old man noticing once you were part of the family. Emily's knees buckle slightly. A bridesmaid rushes forward to steady her, but Emily waves her away, forcing herself to remain standing. You're going to mortgage my family's estate? Emily, no, that's not. He's twisting. Daniel reaches for her, but she steps back, horror etched across her face. You researched my uncle's case, she whispers, the pieces falling into place with terrible clarity. That's why you were so interested when I finally told you about the bankruptcy. You asked so many questions about how it was structured, how the recovery worked. I was just trying to understand your family history. You were learning how to replicate it. Her voice rises, cracking. You studied what my uncle did so you could do the same thing, except you planned to use me. Use my family's name, our reputation, our trust, as a shield. The crowd has pressed closer, forming a tight circle. Phones are definitely out now, recording everything. This isn't just society drama anymore. This is potential criminal exposure. Daniel's eyes dart around, searching for allies, for escape routes. Finding neither, he pivots to attack. You're going to believe him? A man who abandoned you for 10 years? Who shows up uninvited with convenient documents on our wedding day? His voice drips with venom. He's probably been planning this for months, sabotaging us because he wants you for himself. I don't want anything from Emily, Marcus says firmly, except for her to know the truth before she makes a decision she can't undo. Eleanor finds her voice again, shrill and desperate. This is slander, defamation. Marcus Hale, or whatever your real name is, I will sue you for every penny you have. I will destroy your career. You are a liar and a manipulator, and Mrs. Lennox, one of the security guards, interrupts quietly. He's the older of the two, with gray at his temples and the weathered look of someone who's seen everything. Ma'am, I think you should stop talking. Eleanor whirls on him. Excuse me? I employ you. You work for this family. I work for the estate. The guard corrects gently but firmly. And I was here 10 years ago. I remember Mr. Hale. He nods toward Marcus with unmistakable respect. He worked 80-hour weeks in the estate office that summer. I drove him to the courthouse twice for depositions. He's telling the truth. The second guard nods agreement. My brother works federal law enforcement. He mentioned the Whitford case, said someone had done brilliant forensic work, said it was textbook investigation. Eleanor looks as if she's been slapped. Richard Whitford steps forward, his voice heavy with authority. Daniel, are Marcus's accusations true? Daniel's mouth opens and closes. His perfect hair, so carefully styled this morning, has fallen across his forehead. His white tuxedo, symbol of purity, new beginnings, suddenly looks like a costume from a play that's gone horribly wrong. You don't understand. The business climate today, you have to be creative with capital structures. Are the offshore accounts real? Richard's voice cuts like steel. Daniel's silence is answer enough. Emily removes her engagement ring. Emily stands motionless for 10 seconds that feel like 10 years. Her engagement ring, 3 carats of flawless diamond in a platinum setting, appraised at $85,000, sits in her palm, catching the afternoon sun like a shard of ice. Then she closes her fist around it and turns to face the assembled guests. 200 faces stare back at her. Some show sympathy. Others barely concealed excitement at witnessing such spectacular drama. A few look uncomfortable, as if they'd rather be anywhere else. But all of them are watching, waiting for what comes next. Emily walks toward the center of the lawn, her wedding dress trailing behind her like a white shadow. Each step is deliberate, measured. Her father moves as if to intercept her, but she shakes her head slightly, and he stops. Daniel lurches forward, his composure completely shattered. Emily, wait, we can talk about this. Just give me 5 minutes to explain. He reaches for her hand. She pulls away so quickly, so instinctively, that several guests actually gasp. The rejection is visceral, unmistakable. Daniel's outstretched fingers close on empty air. "Don't touch me," Emily says quietly. Then louder, voice steady despite the tears still streaming down her face. "Don't ever touch me again." Daniel freezes, his face cycling through expressions, pleading, angry, desperate. "Emily, please. You're upset. You're not thinking clearly. This is our wedding day." "No." The word rings across the lawn like a bell. "It's not." Emily turns to address the crowd directly, her voice gaining strength with each word. "I apologize to everyone who came here today expecting a wedding. I'm sorry for the disruption, the confusion, the scandal." She pauses, drawing a breath that shakes her entire frame. "But this wedding cannot continue." The words land like a bomb. Chaos erupts instantly. Guests surge forward, voices overlapping in a cacophony of shock and speculation. "Did she just... Oh my God, I knew something was off. The Lennox family will never recover from this. Someone get this on video." Daniel's voice rises above the din, cracking with panic. "You can't do this. Emily, think about what you're saying. Think about our families, the merger, the agreements. This isn't just about us." And there it is, the truth slipping out in his desperation. Not "I love you," not "please don't leave me," but concerns about business arrangements and family alliances. Emily hears it too. Her expression hardens. "You're right. It was never just about us, was it? It was about access, about protection, about using my family's name to legitimize your criminal activity." Criminal? You're listening to a man who crashed our wedding with fabricated evidence. Daniel gestures wildly toward Marcus. "He's manipulating you. Can't you see that?" Eleanor finally finds her voice, though it emerges as a shriek. "This is a disaster. Daniel, fix this. Say something." She clutches at her son's arm, her gold dress wrinkled now, her carefully styled hair falling loose. The guests, the contracts, my God, the deposits alone. Her priorities are painfully clear. Not her son's criminal exposure, not Emily's betrayal, but the money, the reputation, the social standing crumbling around them. A woman in the crowd, Daniel's aunt, actually collapses into a chair, fanning herself dramatically. The humiliation, the absolute humiliation. But other guests are watching Emily with something different in their eyes. Respect, understanding. A few of the younger women are nodding, as if they recognize the courage required to walk away from a wedding in front of 200 witnesses. Marcus remains exactly where he's been standing, 20 feet back, near the rose arbor. He hasn't moved closer, hasn't interjected, hasn't made this moment about himself. He simply watches, his dark eyes steady and calm, a silent presence of support without interference. Emily notices. She turns to face him fully, and something passes between them. Gratitude, recognition, a connection forged in crisis and sealed in truth. 10 years ago, Emily says, her voice carrying clearly across the lawn, Marcus Hale saved my family from financial ruin. He worked day and night, asked for nothing in return, and disappeared before we could properly thank him. She wipes tears from her face with the back of her hand, no longer caring about ruined makeup or appearances. He could have stayed silent today. He could have let me make this mistake, but he didn't. She walks toward Marcus, and the crowd parts automatically, creating a pathway. Today, Emily continues, her voice breaking but her words clear. Marcus saved me. Not my family's fortune this time. Not the estate or the company. He saved me from making the worst decision of my life. Marcus's expression softens slightly, but he remains professionally composed. You deserve to know the truth. Thank you, Emily whispers. Then louder, for everyone to hear, thank you. Behind them, Daniel has sunk onto a nearby chair, his white tuxedo crumpled, his face buried in his hands. Eleanor stands frozen, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly, processing the social catastrophe unfolding before her. The ceremony, months of planning, hundreds of thousands of dollars in expenses, the union of two prominent families, dissolves into scandal and whispered gossip. Guests pull out phones, already composing messages to friends who weren't invited, spreading the news across social networks with the speed of wildfire. But the scandal doesn't touch Marcus. He stands amid the chaos like an island of calm, unmoved by the storm he's created. Not gloating, not celebrating, simply present, having done what needed to be done. A guest whispers to her companion, "I heard the Lennox family is being investigated by the SEC. Another responds, "Daniel will be lucky if he avoids prison." Emily dodged a bullet. No, she dodged a nuclear weapon. Richard Whitford approaches his daughter, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sweetheart, let's get you inside." Emily nods, but doesn't move immediately. She looks back at the elaborate setup, the flowers, the chairs arranged in perfect rows, the altar where she was supposed to pledge her life to a man who planned to exploit her family. Then she looks at Marcus one more time. He inclines his head slightly, a small gesture of acknowledgement, of respect, of solidarity from someone who understands what it costs to choose truth over convenience. Emily turns and walks toward the house, her wedding dress trailing behind her, leaving the ceremony and Daniel in ruins. Marcus adjusts his jacket, preparing to leave the same way he arrived, quietly, without fanfare, his purpose fulfilled. He's taken 3 steps toward the garden entrance when Richard Whitford's voice stops him. "Marcus, wait." Richard and his wife, Catherine, approach together, moving with the careful dignity of people who've spent decades in the public eye but are now navigating genuinely uncharted territory. Catherine's eyes are red-rimmed, her pearls catching the late afternoon light. "Mr. and Mrs. Whitford." Marcus nods respectfully. "I apologize for the disruption." "Don't." Richard's voice is firm but not unkind. He extends his hand, and when Marcus takes it, Richard clasps it with both of his own. "Don't you dare apologize. What you did today, what you've done for this family, twice now," his voice breaks slightly. "We can never repay that debt." Catherine steps forward, and to Marcus's visible surprise, she embraces him. It's brief, but genuine, the kind of hug a mother gives someone who's protected her child. When she pulls back, tears shine in her eyes. "You saved my daughter from a nightmare," she whispers. "Thank you" doesn't begin to cover it. 20 feet away, Eleanor Lennox stands frozen near the champagne table, her gold dress rumpled, her earlier fury extinguished into something closer to shock. She watches this exchange with an expression that cycles between disbelief and dawning horror. This man, the one she called a trespasser, threatened with arrest, accused of seeking handouts, is being embraced by the Whitfords like family. The man she judged instantly based on assumptions and prejudice is being honored while her own son faces potential criminal charges. A guest whispers nearby, just loud enough for Eleanor to hear. She actually tried to have him removed. Can you imagine? The one person with actual integrity at this entire wedding. Eleanor's face flushes crimson, but she says nothing. There's nothing left to say. Marcus gently extracts himself from the Whitfords' gratitude, declining their offers to stay, to talk more, to finally receive proper recognition. "I came to do what was right. That's done. The rest is for your family to process privately." He turns toward the estate gates, and Emily, who's been standing near the house, watching, suddenly moves. Her wedding dress swishes across the perfectly manicured lawn as she hurries after him. "Marcus!" Her voice carries across the garden. "Wait!" He stops at the stone pathway leading to the gates, turning as she approaches. They're far enough from the main gathering now that the noise and gossip fade into background murmur, creating a pocket of relative privacy beneath an ancient oak tree. Emily reaches him slightly breathless, one hand gathering her dress to keep from tripping. For a moment, she just looks at him, really looks at him, perhaps for the first time today, seeing not the man who saved her, but the person beneath the heroics. "Don't disappear again," she says quietly. It's not quite a plea, not quite a command. Something in between. "Please, not this time." Marcus's professional composure softens into something warmer. The ghost of a smile touches his lips. "Only if you stop pretending you don't run this entire place better than any of them ever did." Emily blinks, surprised. "What?" "I saw how the staff reacted to you earlier," Marcus says. "They respect you, trust you. You've been holding this family together, making the real decisions while letting everyone else think they're in charge. His smile widened slightly. You're wasted playing the role of trophy wife, Emily. You always were. Her breath catches. In all the years since he left, through all her achievements, her master's degree in business, her quiet work managing estate operations, her careful navigation of family politics, no one has acknowledged what she actually does, what she's actually capable of. She struggles for words. How did you? Because 10 years ago, you were the one who caught the first discrepancy in your uncle's accounts. Remember? You brought it to me, thinking it was just a clerical error. Marcus's expression grows serious. You had the instincts then. I can see you've sharpened them since. Emily's eyes well up again, but these tears are different. Not grief or betrayal, but recognition. Being seen. Stay in touch, she manages. Really? I mean it. I will, Marcus promises. And unlike 10 years ago, this time she believes him. He walks toward the gates, his stride confident and unhurried. Emily watches him go, her wedding dress billowing slightly in the evening breeze. This time, she's not watching a stranger leave. She's watching someone walk away who changed the trajectory of her entire life, twice. Behind them, back at the dissolve ceremony, the whispers have evolved into a new narrative. Did you see how the Whitfords treated him? I heard he saved them from bankruptcy years ago. And now he saved the daughter from a criminal. We all judged him the moment he walked in. He was the only honest person here. The man they tried to push out ended up being the one with real integrity. An older woman shakes her head, speaking to her husband. We assumed the worst based on nothing but appearance. And he turned out to be the hero of this entire disaster. Eleanor overhears this too. She's surrounded by the ruins of her son's reputation, her family's standing, her own judgment, all collapsed in the span of one afternoon. The man she tried to humiliate now walks away with his dignity intact while her family faces investigation and social exile. Marcus reaches the estate gates. He pauses, looking back one final time. Emily raises her hand in a small wave. He returns it, then disappears beyond the stone pillars that mark the entrance to the Whitford estate. The sun begins its descent toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawn where a wedding was supposed to happen. The guests will leave soon, carrying stories of scandal and redemption to every corner of their social circles. But one truth will outlast all the gossip. The man they tried to avoid, the stranger they judged on sight, ended up being the only one among them brave enough to speak truth when it mattered most. What happens next in this story of redemption and second chances? Subscribe to continue reading and discover how Emily rebuilds her life, what consequences Daniel faces, and whether Marcus and Emily's connection becomes something more. Don't miss the next chapter. Follow now for updates and join thousands of readers discussing this unfolding drama. Your thoughts in the comments help shape where this story goes next.